Join us in this discussion on sustainability, where thought-provoking dialogues paint endless possibilities for clean mobility. Let's delve into the state of the technology landscape, exploring electric vehicles, fuels, storage, and powertrains. Nations unite, forging collaborations that fuel the global electric vehicle supply chain. Witness the evolution of circularity, where used batteries find rebirth. Brace for some intriguing insights into geopolitics and efforts to de-risk supply chains. In this journey, technology shapes destinies, collaboration fuels progress, and the circular economy breathes life into sustainability.
Talking about tomorrow's clean mobility terrain, we have 4 people who will be taking stage and 1 moderator. It's my honor to welcome the first, Friedrich Birgelen, Deputy Consul General, German Consulate General, Bangalore, requesting you to please take the stage. Can we give him a big round of applause while he makes his way to the stage? Thank you very much for being with us here this afternoon. Ujjwala Karle, Deputy Director, the Automotive Research Association of India, requesting you to please take stage. Dr. Anshuman Awasthi, VP R&D, EV and Hybrid, Mercedes-Benz. Your 4th panelist will be A.L.N. Rao, CEO, Exigo Recycling. And I'm going to request the moderator, Anand Shri Ganesh, CEO, IIMB Innovations, NSRCEL, to please step onto the stage. You, sir, have the honor of this conversation. A big round of applause, people of the audience. This is your panel, that is your moderator.
Thank you. I was asked to carry my mic to the stage, so that's like you're either a rock star or a stand-up comedian. We can figure where we land in half an hour or so. By way of introduction, for some of you might not know and wonder what I'm doing on stage, I represent NSRCEL. I am Bangalore's incubation center. The NS Raghavan Center for Entrepreneurship looks at early stage incubation across a very vast range of technologies, entrepreneurial interests, but a significant proportion of the work we do is in the climate and sustainability space. And we partner with MyCelio, with ARAI, with IDFC, I see Kavin somewhere, as our partners in the ecosystem to see if we can inject the right energy into the broader climate and sustainability ecosystem. And just as a plug, my team is also here, so I have to do this. In fact, just today we are launching our 2024 first cohort in sustainability this afternoon, with 17 innovators in the broader climate tech space. So this summit itself is so beautifully timed. What we'll do over the next 45 minutes, it's counting down to 48, we'll do about 30-35 minutes of canned conversation with my panelists, and then about 10 minutes of open house Q&A. To my panelists, as we open up the conversation, maybe you should take a bit of opportunity to introduce yourself, a little bit of the work your organization does, and your own perspective to what our mandate today. The conversation on Mosaic tapestry is too complicated, so we'll probably focus largely on technology innovation, technology adoption across the value chain. But probably I want to start first with Anshuman. And I want to respond to what we heard since the morning. We've seen a couple of startups, a couple of large corporates, and you're an R&D person. You're the other engineer on the podium. Where are you seeing the innovation coming from? Even Mr. Kant talked about startups bringing in a lot of the innovation energy, but we also heard Honda and we have you, and I know you do a lot of work and you've been in this space for a long while. Where is the innovation coming from? What is the role of a startup? What is the role of large corporates in even constructing standards, methods, technologies? I know it's a broad conversation, but your perspective will be very valuable.
Very interesting question. Where is innovation coming from? It's a tough question also to answer, but from the corporate point of view, where are we taking the innovation? A lot of innovation happens in-house as well. Talent, that we have, we understand the product, we understand the customer, the demand, the market, and we bring it back and we try to innovate in-house. But off late, and off late meaning, let's say past 7, 8 years or 6 years or so, we are seeing a lot of innovation is also coming from outside the organization. And this is the kind of innovation which is drag and drop innovation, as in it's there, done by startups, done by companies, and companies like us have realized that we don't need to redevelop, right? Re-engineer the whole thing, and we can take that innovation, bring into our innovation process, and see how do we develop a product or a function or feature out of it.
Ujjwala, I want to sort of bounce that with you because of what he used peculiar phrase, drag and drop. And one of the things that, because we operate in incubator space, some sense we might have is the idea of interoperability among especially battery technologies, powertrains, BMS systems. Interoperability is always a challenge, and innovators are looking at it from very different spaces, very different perspectives, and there isn't yet an evolved standard. I know, Alan, you sit on the NITI committee for battery policy, so I will bounce another thought of you, but how are you seeing the adoption of policy itself, in the sense of where are standards emerging? If one has to look at drag and drop to achieve scale and innovation, where are the conflicts, where are the opportunities?
I think I was expecting this question. Thank you for this. I have two different thought processes to deal with it. One is when Anshuman says drag and drop, it's lot of times what he has been talking about, where we are talking about B2B innovations, which can be directly adopted as part of a bigger ecosystem which can be taken up. And one good part when it happens is, you know, there's all bigger players who are established already in the market do know how to take it further, how to validate, what is its entire life to be connected. And that becomes much easier for someone to really adopt and get into a bigger role or bigger flow as such. But many times people are intending to have even B2C innovations as such. And when even B2B innovations we are talking about, the challenge becomes, as you said, the interoperability. When it becomes B2C, everybody wants to have their USPs. And when they talk about USPs, many times I've seen people trying to do all surrounded things also by themselves to prove their USPs. Like they want to have the B2C, the market coming to them, and they have their own USPs developed by themselves and still want to have the entire ecosystem around them to be developed by themselves so that they can approach and go to the market as B2C. So in both cases it's contradictory, because if you want to have their own USPs by yourself and go to B2C, it's very difficult to say that you have to have some standards. So when we talk about innovations in different perspectives, like we can go to batteries and other parts separately, but initially it is very difficult to have the regulations in place by itself. Because something which is very different and unique, how can you have regulations directly coming into the place? It kills actually sometimes the innovations happening. But what is important to have, always ARAI believes that we cannot control on technologies which has to be used, but the outcome which is required to have it. So when it comes to safety, when it comes to interfaces, when it comes to environment friendly, we have to have the regulations or the standards which are around that. But as we are talking about inward developments which are happening, I think there are many times not regulatory standards which would be coming. It would be a lot of interface standards and benchmarks which are required. Like if we talk about two-wheeler ecosystem which is evolving in India for EVs, what we have really looked into is how can we have our own beyond regulation and certification, how can we have our own basic set of testing and validation methods, Like if you have, somebody comes with motor and motor controllers, what is something that someone has to develop, someone has to validate for? It is beyond regulations, and that will help them to go further and move further. I think I would also like to say that this is where we are also working with people like Misilio, where we are talking about understanding the needs of the startups, trying to have the global expertise which is coming there and applying it for the Indian use cases, where the two-wheelers, three-wheelers are very specific India-specific requirements, where our requirements, use cases are different. That's what I would like to say. It's not simple, but it is really important to have that way.
I will come back to the India-specific hook that you left. There might be something interesting we need to talk about. Friedrich, I want to bounce the same thought past you, because as you were just saying, outside Germany, sort of the poker players that's put all its chips on the EV space. And you're looking to bring in startups globally from India, from a cross-border perspective, to work with German manufacturers like Mercedes and others. How are you seeing this play out? How do you see innovation coming in cross-border, but for your country's specific requirements or demands? And how do you see, as it were, balance of trade? What comes back?
Yeah, thank you so much. Like you rightly said, Germany is all in, and I think maybe for our audience, so I represent the German government, and my country has pretty much decided we will be in mobility electric only, right? So what does that mean from 2030 on, or in the 2030s? You can no longer buy a new combustion engine car. You know, it won't be admitted. And that's a huge challenge, and that is a policy decision that the government has made for the energy transition, and now innovation, technology, and industry has to catch up, because that's the goalpost, and we somehow have to get there. We've made some strides. There are more than 1 million electric vehicles driving around Germany right now, but we still have a gap to bridge in a short amount of time. And that's what I was referencing. We need innovation, we need ingenuity, because you all know if it is a top-down approach, the government puts forth a policy, and I think you touched on it. It's really hard. We have to deliver on that, and that's where I see Indian ingenuity, startup companies, engine know-how coming in. Just to give you a very concrete example, I mean, we're developing charging infrastructure in Germany, which is a huge subject, and they have software bugs, right? Every EV has software bugs, and so we need Indian software engineers to help us out. So just this morning, I was talking to an Indian who's working in Germany on that charging infrastructure, who said, yes, there are a lot of software bugs, and we have a lot of problems. So that's sort of my ask, my message to Indian startups, corporates, companies, ingenuity. Help us out in this electric revolution that we're trying to do.
Actually, he said two different things. If you heard him carefully, he said, please come to Germany, please make software with less bugs. So he said two different things.
Yes, very true.
Alan, your understanding of the value chain, I think, is considerable given the sort of range of work you do. The thing I'm curious about, for example, what Friedrich said about going completely EV also from a policy perspective, right? But that debate is not closed. Across the value chain, from fuel to storage to management systems and controllers to powertrains to the full body of the full vehicle, whether I look at commercial or passenger. How are you seeing this play out? What might you see as what we as a country, if I have to be a little inward looking, should we be looking at for the first, let's say, 1 to 3 years? But what might it look like beyond 3 to 5 years? What is your sense of evolution of the value chain itself? They say 2040 we have to get ICE out of our roads, but they've taken a strong dimensional call saying it has to be the EV route. Do you see that as a driver, which means policy drives technology adoption, which is a peculiar way to look about things, but?
That's a very good question. In fact, on the one side, if you look at the policy is very clear that we need to get into a circular model. We need to have a closed-loop model. And the producers, manufacturers, refurbishers, recyclers, and the other stakeholders needs to be interconnected and get into a collaborative model of working. And only then India can move forward. And that's very clear as far as the policy is concerned. We've seen this happening around the world too, and I believe in India too. In the EV segment, it will happen. With the numbers that are there that's being projected, we're looking at what, from the battery space, if I were to look into, that's the domain which I represent mostly. We're looking at around 300, 400, 500 gigawatt hour of batteries by 2030 now, and that constitutes 50% of a vehicle. That's the numbers that's been thrown out there. So how do you ensure that the battery, which is an important component, is manufactured in India, and the commodities that comes out of the batteries are actually, recycled, refined, given it back to the country here for manufacturers, right? The gigafactories that are coming out here. So the challenge is EV vehicles is one aspect, battery is another aspect. Both are interrelated, but both are different too, right? And both needs to be focused in a very big way. And that is why policy interventions came in 3-4 years back, 11 verticals identified. Now we have a battery waste management rules that's been announced too, and targets been given to each stakeholder per se. So to answer your question exactly, the technological challenges that are there, not only in designing, developing every part of a vehicle per se, but also for battery is the same. The challenges are the same there. And as far as batteries are concerned, from the recycling space, if I were to say, how do you, or if I say the recyclers, are they the last mile players? Yeah. I am the last guy here in this way, or are we at the start of the supply chain? Is the question, right? So I think globally, we've been able to see in Europe, in the US, and other countries also, a very collaborative approach between producers and recyclers have started off in a very big way. Reason being, batteries has to be focused. Why do I say that? Are you a owner of your vehicle? Are you a owner of your battery? Or are you a owner of the commodity that's there in the battery? That's the question. And if that can be answered by companies, I'm sure people would want to be a miner about the ground, owning of the commodities there.
Sorry, but do you see that embedded within design itself? Sometimes, especially in the two-wheeler space, you talk about EV native design versus an ICE design adopted to EV. I'm not sure there's merit in both conversations. But do you see sustainability or circularity embedded in design? Any example? I may not be aware, but do you see any example at all of, like you said, this is first mile, that circularity and sustainability is embedded within, let's say, at least a battery design, if not the entire system. Any examples? Do you see that as a thinking at all?
It's a good point you raise, Ganesh. In fact, globally, if you see the waste management rules out there, I think India stands out. Kudos to the government in coming out with the BWMR 2022. Why? The use of secondary raw material as a part of circularity and closing the loop model, 5% to 30% is the target that's been announced for producers to use secondary raw material from batteries that's coming in. Initially, I believe every country, it's the policy that pushes the industry. And going forward slowly, the business takes over and then the ecosystem builds in. India is at a very nascent stage. The direction has been given. So yes, I believe that these SRMs being used by producers in new product manufacturing would start in a year or two. And that's where we see the circularity getting into shape. And that is going to be a very, very good opportunity for the country to become independent for its commodities, metals, and materials too. Yeah.
Okay, so that's leading, ma'am, Ujjwala, to you. And you spoke of indigenization, and I sort of promised I'll get back. We have a problem. Right? If you look at chemistry to the battery assembly, to controllers, to the BMS system, to the powertrains, and it's not an India problem, right? Some of this is centered in specific geographic clusters. In fact, Mr. Kant talked about rare earths and lithium and molybdenum and how we could be self-sufficient in rare earths that are required for some of this. I think two-part question. One is, where are you seeing the innovation? For example, my perspective, knowledge might be limited. In the area of battery chemistry, I think we are still, as a country, still a way to catch up. But probably in the area of BMS systems, powertrains, there's more work that's got done. Both may have their merits and demerits from a cost of indigenization and of course an impact of indigenization. Maybe powertrains help in Bangalore roads, but if you don't crack the chemistry, you're, as Alan says, you're postponing the problem. It's going to come and bite you 24, 36 months down the line. Where are you seeing work getting done today? Where are the risks? Where are the opportunities?
Okay, we are starting with batteries, so I'll limit myself to talk about batteries at this moment. The overall battery value chain, the cells manufacturing, the raw material, the cells to pack, actually on the road trials, and then coming to the recycling and circularity part of it. I think what is happening today is trying to have the indigenization from where we can have cells to pack engineering happening here. So it is engineering efforts, right engineering efforts, what can be done to create cells to pack here. And when I say about Indian requirement as such, it was something like a vehicle that has to run in Indian environment, wherein we have temperatures extremes happening, vibrations, road interactions different, as well as flood coming in, so IP requirements coming in, and still, with all these things, the cost sensitivity. And these are all challenges, and we all strongly believe that challenges always lead to innovations. And that's where a lot of people are working around creating this cells to battery pack engineering part of it. It could be a mechanical packaging and how handling these challenges, as well as trying to handle the BMS systems. And BMS is really key for it, looking at how we want to address, particularly if you look into even the mechanical side, two-wheeler segment. We can't afford to have an active cooling many times. People are still working and creating innovations around that. But many players are looking at, and without active cooling, how it can be really handled. And we're still having the IP67 rating around it. So how can we...
A trade-off between power and cooling is integral too.
Absolutely. So material-based cooling, what we can do. BMS, which will have the anti or the taking care of ensuring the safer operations part of it. So I've handled this part. When it comes to, this is happening very fast, I believe. But the success of having the battery is, you talked about, we talked about recyclability, we talked about how we can reuse the batteries in the entire different life. I add into the perspective of third R, where R-cube, everybody knows, is a key part of success of this battery ecosystem here. Where first R has to be also focused, where we reduce the intake by itself, how we can have the enhanced life for its utilization itself. With this a given environment and boundary conditions that we have. And the role of BMS also becomes very strong beyond the cells and the chemistry that we select to it. How we are ensuring the optimum utilization of batteries by itself, or cells by itself in the given environment. That is where the battery will ensure that. And that's where the R-cube, first reduce, then reuse in different ways, standardizing on the connectors, standardizing on interrupt, like having a standard module packs which can be utilized further, and then trying to go for the recyclability and creating the value products, urban mining in India. This entire value chain is going to create the success for the current battery ecosystem that we are talking about. At the same time, there is a work happening on the chemistries, where ARAI themselves are supporting in a multiple startup and ecosystems where trying to create indigenized material. It's not.
At the lithium ion architecture beyond
lithium-ion architecture also.
If you can share.
Yeah, it is sodium ion, it is zinc air. People are discussing about that, and we are supporting that. We are also supporting people who are working on hybrid energy storage systems. See, something where we can reduce on use of the battery itself and try to use alternate energy packs which could be used. So the electronics in between is again important, because the HESS talks about handling how to handle with two different characteristics, energy sources at the same time on the vehicle. So HESS is one option. The other chemistries are options, but they are in the evolving and initial start part. We all strongly believe that they need supported at different levels of innovation and ecosystem so that they can become successful. The global expertise can be really put in their interest, their learnings, how it can be really coped up here, so that the technology becomes useful for our environment and we become more energy independent in the long run. Thank you.
Anshuman, Ujjwala talked about hybrids, and I picked on that to sort of bounce off. You also do a lot of work in the hybrid space. I want to also get your perspective on sort of passenger versus commercial, sort of two-wheeler, four-wheeler. Where do you see the role of what kind of technology adoption in the short, medium term between EV and non-EV, or between fast charging for long haul versus urban transportation?
So I'm not a commercial vehicle expert, but I can talk in general about the tech part here is, I think 2-3 things I will talk about. And first thing is, if we try to design a tech for future with the understanding of the tech today and the tech today we have, it's a problem. And let me give an example. A few years back when the EVs were coming and everybody talked about range, I need range, and range anxiety was a kind of, quote unquote, was a buzzword that how do you address that? But today nobody is talking about range. Range anxiety has gone out of the window and suddenly everybody is talking about charging. So I think instead of reacting to what comes, engineers have to understand what really is a mobility problem that they want to solve. I think it's understood that technology that is being, and I'm coming back to India here, is that whatever is developed outside India will definitely work for India, no doubt about it. But I think it's important for engineers here to understand India. India today is urban mobility country. And while Europe is a rural mobility country.
Your perspective, just sorry interrupting you, is from a consumer and passenger perspective.
Right.
Okay. So we are a urban mobility country.
Exactly. And then look at the challenges we face. We saw the picture in the morning, Sarjapur ORO road. And then these are the challenges we need to solve as engineers here than driving on German autobahns at high speed, right? That is, and the last point I want to make about the tech piece here is that even a high performance car owner has to go for grocery shopping in the high performance car, or the high performance two-wheeler guy has to go for grocery shopping. So when you say, I need to design a high-performance vehicle, it needs a high-performance battery, is it so? So the question here is, do we really understand our the need part and how the technology can be modularized or can be brought into to address specific challenges?
Sorry, could you give an example? What's the difference between an Autobahn and Sarjapur Road from a value chain design?
Autobahn, when I say German Autobahns are famous for no speed limit, at least some of them.
Does it impact chemistry? Does it impact powertrain? What should I be thinking about?
So if you have, let's say, 100 kilowatt hour battery, if you drive at a speed of 80 kilometers per hour, you will get, as per WLTP, certain range. And if you drive at 200 kilometers per hour, you get some range. The battery is getting hotter, faster.
Correct.
You need cooling solutions. So everything is designed around the use case, not just the capacity and the engineering specification, right? So, and you say, okay, something is working. But here use cases are your vehicle is, it doesn't really work for electric, as in that idling doesn't work, but then you see that you can generate or regenerate a lot of energy from stop and go traffic, right? Which doesn't happen on Autobahn. Regeneration doesn't happen. So the question here is, if we understand it and if we optimize our understanding as well before we optimize a system, we get, I think, a lot of benefit out of it.
Friedrich, I want to take that off and from your perspective. Where is the role of, so I want to look at it from a balance of trade. You're inviting Indian startups to come to Germany. Where do you see the opportunity for German technology, German engineering, German innovation to be relevant for an Indian ecosystem? Because Anshuman says relevancy is far more critical than the evolution of technology. Where do you see that? Because an earlier conversation we had, one of the speakers said, don't want to reinvent something that's already out there. So can I bring it by working through with an ecosystem? Can I bring it in? How do you see balance of trade? How can I look at German engineering and evolution coming to India?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a fascinating topic, and to echo what he said, some things will work in India and won't work in Germany. For example, I think many of you know this battery swapping that is going on in Bangalore for all the 2- and 3-wheelers, right? So in Germany, there wouldn't necessarily be a market for that because we don't have those 2- and 3-wheelers delivering at all hours of the day. Likewise, we have the high-powered battery which we need for the Autobahn, so there is a certain incompatibility. But where I think what Germans are really, really good at is trying to, build the sort of the best quality, take the longest time. And what Indians are really good at is having this fit-for-purpose solution, which Germans are really bad in, because a German engineer will, put an extra 4 years into getting it just right, but then, he might miss the spot for market. So where we're at face value, we're describing something that seems, at opposite ends of the spectrum is incompatible. But I think what makes sense is to meet in the middle as per the case. So when I was visiting Mercedes-Benz, Anshuman's colleagues were telling me, we write all the software for the Mercedes, for the S-Class here in Bangalore. And then so we were jokingly asking, well, what do you need the Germans for then? You do everything here. They said, well, they have 150 years of experience in making autos. So it's a bit of both. So I cannot give you like this one perfect example, but I know, and I think all the German companies here, the startups, they bear it out. There is value in what India brings, this fit-for-purpose mentality, and then there's value what this sort of perfectionist engineering brings, and depending on what you're trying to do, sometimes it helps to meet in the middle.
Alan, your perspective on building the ecosystem.
Ganesh, in the ecosystem, in the EV side, if you were to see, first use is...
And where do the incentives align? Because we're looking at problems which are unsolved yet.
Right. So if I were to say the first use, many people know. I mean, first forward logistics, first use, people know, people are working on that. Comes in the second life, the used batteries that comes in to talk about shipping, packaging, transportation, storage, handling. There are certain guidelines at the global level. India doesn't have one yet. We need to work on that. Startups, they are the key to coming out with very innovative, cost-effective technologies and solutions in that particular part of the ecosystem. Second, technology. We have, if I were to say about recycling and refining, in recycling of batteries, there's a mechanical part to it, up to black mass level people generate and process, and then you have a hydrometallurgy or a pyrometallurgy or a direct process. So talking about the Germany and Europe per se, machineries, we know the expertise that they have as far as machineries are concerned. India need to come out with machineries. Why do I say that? It's not that we don't have the talent in designing, developing, manufacturing machineries. Cost-effective machineries, going forward, if everybody is able to do hydrometallurgy operations globally, what is it that Indian player would be different? Where is the USP then? It's the cost, right? The cost of doing the process is the most important thing. So that machinery aspect, how do you build in modular, cost-effective technology? Example, most of the clients, most of the prospects that we've been talking at the global level, auto majors, they say that, as of now, I'm outsourcing the battery manufacturing. Going forward, I intend putting up a battery manufacturing plant within my plant. And then I would like to ensure that my brand products or used batteries are not misused by anybody else. So do you have a solution? Yes, we have come out with a mechanical solution. We at Exigo Recycling, where the mechanical aspect up to black mass, right from receiving, discharging, and sorting out the batteries and then shredding it, and removing the copper, aluminum, plastics, and taking out the black mass, removing the electrolyte and the graphite also, and the electrolyte there. The whole unit is only around 3,000 square feet. It fits in 4 20-feet shipping containers, modular in nature, vertical in height. It can fit into any automobile major battery manufacturing company. It's a plant-in-plant concept. Very cost-effective, where 100% electrolyte solution is able to be recovered there. That is the expertise we Indians are able to come out and demonstrate to the world. Globally, such modular concept doesn't exist in the mechanical aspect there. So similarly, I believe technology-wise, there are technology available. What works at the lab level, when you take it to a pilot level, it's a very different challenge. Putting it at an industrial commercial level, we're putting a 10,000 tons lithium-ion battery recycling plant. We had nightmares, trust me, and in the last 3-4 years, but now it's fully operational, and we are proud to demonstrate and showcase the same to anybody and everybody. But the objective, again, it doesn't stop there. Technology and refining is the key. You just can't import technology from anywhere in the world as far as refining is concerned. Water is a friend and an enemy in hydrometallurgy, right? And water in each state in India is different. It behaves in a different way. So the challenges within is very high. At the end of the day, for a lack of a better word, battery-grade materials, refining, recovering, and giving it that particular grade for slurry making directly into cell manufacturing is where we have embarked upon as Exigo Recycling. I'm sure there will be a lot of players, but I believe there are a lot of startups out there in the country who have got into this bandwagon, and I'm able to see a lot of interest that's being generated by youngsters who've come in this field. So, and especially I believe Mycelio and ARAI and R&D teams of various brands out there in India are going to be the key drivers. But testing of everything at large scale, it's only the recycler who's going to do it. Yeah. Yep.
I think that's, like we heard earlier, hope is a good word apparently. Good to hear. Ujjwala, last one for you before you open it up to the audience. You do a lot of work with corporates, with academic institutions, with startups. I want to ask the same question to you. Knowing that all of us are, in the most respectful manner, still figuring out the blind man and the elephant. What are we looking at? How is the space going to evolve? What's my role? Where is the money to be made? Shreyas earlier said, I mean, he is sort of motivating us to think about the planet. But in the nicest manner for corporates and startups, cash is king. And that is the nature of innovation. The innovation, like you said, are you innovating for day after tomorrow, which is a technologist perspective, and are you innovating for Monday morning, which is a business owner's perspective? How have you seen ARAI's role in enabling some of these bridges? Can a corporate work with a research institution, work with a startup? Are there meaningful successes from a technology innovation perspective?
Yes, I will restrict myself to technology innovation at this moment. I think, as you rightly said, ARAI's role is enablement and empowerment. And in the entire innovation ecosystem, I should not talk to you being in this field, but what ARAI look into is 4 I's which are important. Ideate, implement, innovate, and create impact. I think these 4 I's, if we can really contribute and enable or chain with each other, that's a success of the entire ecosystem that we are talking about. So we are creating different platforms. Of course, I'm not talking about skilling as such, because ARI Academy is well known for the skilling as such. But an ideate phase, we run like hackathons with our Technos platforms. You have been part of hackathon.
Yep.
So trying to create and trigger and ignite minds where we can create ideas for different challenges that we are facing.
This is with startups, with engineering colleges.
Both. So we have different level. We have student challenges separately run. During CIAT also we will have the student challenges running up, which is our standard band. So we run student challenges for different parts. Currently we're focusing mostly on sustainability and safety. Both two. We create this as Gandhiji's chashma with two zeros. Two zeros being one for sustainability or carbon neutrality, and the second zero for the zeros fatalities for the future. So India at 100 with Gandhiji's chashma is the theme that we use for triggering the minds, igniting the minds, creating, capturing the ideas. The second phase is trying to create implementation. So implementation is somewhere we can create prototypes. So we work with multiple startups. We work with multiple incubators today also, wherein we are trying to create and find out what are the good ideas where they can be taken to some level where the implementations can be done. The third one, what ARAI puts in efforts separately is what we call is uptake or up-leveling. So when it becomes B2C, as I was telling earlier, the innovation or USP is one. We create a product around it. Many times the specification or the actually attributes are very important to create those parts and go to that level. Validation, it's not certification, the validation and creating attributes up to that level. So what we call is technology up-leveling to create to a level. So therein ARAI has put in a specific team which will be identify startups. Individual engineers are connected to have that technology up-leveling hand-holding so that it can take up to further level. And the last part is as a society or a whole ecosystem as a whole, we should be able to create the impact, which is for, I think, what Shreyas was talking about. I understand in the business, but on the technology part, we strongly believe that unless we create impact, I think there was also a picture for whom we are making it with the vehicle and the small two kids. It's for our own future tomorrow as a mankind and society as a whole. And I believe ARAI's role is also to have this and conserve this societal impact, which is, and carry forward this societal impact, which is for future of ourselves. Thank you.
It does appear my panelists are extremely positive about tomorrow and not bleak, which God is kind, is a good sign. We will have about maybe 9-10 minutes, so we could take about 3 or 4 questions from the audience if you have any.
Thank you. My name is Amir. I represent Synergy Insurance Broking. Okay. Spoiler alert, I don't intend to sound like a conspiracy theorist. Now, I've been following the solid state, this research and the technology and development on that for quite a while. And it is disheartening, disappointing to see that this is one aspect of technology that has not really gained much traction. I mean, we keep hearing that it's gonna, we're gonna see that implemented now, this year. 2 major players have been working on it, at least I know, I don't want to name them, global players. But again, they announced that no, they're going back, they're differing. Now, my question is that, in all fairness, it should be, when do you expect that we will have a breakthrough? Rather, my question is, are we really aiming at a breakthrough on this aspect? Because somewhere I'm forced to or compelled to think that it is done purposefully for some reason. So, anybody
I have a rejoinder before I request the panel to pick it. When you say we, whom do you have in mind? Is it we humanity, we dark corporate, we the research institution?
Anyone. We're all involved in this. And I would like to end my question by saying my name is Amir and I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
Anshuman, if you want to, evolution of solid state technology, complicated.
I mean, battery technology is a very expensive technology, right? And lithium ion technology has been proven since ages, years, and it takes, because what we're talking about, if something goes wrong, is the safety, right? Performance is secondary, but first thing is safety, and you know how volatile these components or these high voltage batteries can be. So not only solid state, other chemistries are also being discussed and being tried. I think it's a matter of how mature these technologies are right now for mobility application, right? And then once that happens, these technologies, I don't think anybody can stop these technologies, because if they deliver on performance, if they deliver on price, cost, everything, efficiency, why would anybody stop? Because ultimately, I think one of you said the businesses are here to make money, right? So I don't see any reason why tech is, I think the only reason, if at all, it is not today, maturity.
If I may, that's, before we get there, where might you see early adoption? Because even Ujjwala ma'am spoke about non-lithium ion as still in sort of R&D stages, even from an indigenization, but where might we see early adoption or early trials?
Tough for me. I mean, your guess is as good as mine. I mean, difficult
Fair.
to say.
Any other questions? Please. We have a mic here.
I'm Ajit. I'm from ARAI. So, my question is, what is your view in the aerial mobility? Look, of course, we spoke about mobility. So there are so many hydrogen fuel cell-based drones are coming. So, what is the role of aerial mobility in India? What do you see?
Yeah, it's to me.
To you, yeah.
I think it's a fantastic thing, especially for a country like India. Aerial mobility is the thing we needed, and you will see it. Aerial mobility will not be used only for civilian application, but also for defense applications. I think it's a huge potential, and this is, everybody is talking about aerial mobility.
Thank you. We had a question there.
Yeah, my name is Ivan. This is the Dean from Christ University. From the academia perspective, I heard all the panelists speaking about the e-mobility part of it. So my question is more revolving around the hybrid mobility. One of you all did pick up a point on there, but then the question is, how do you consider this moving ahead on the hybrid mobility, hydrogen generation and hydrogen storage been part of this? And is there any thought around in terms of capitalizing this? Because of late I hear there are, hydrogen gas been identified beneath the earth, and there's a lot of mining happening out of this, which just came out of surprise, at least in the West. But capitalizing on this technology, how do you ensure this can be very well integrated and at the same time looked on in hybrid mode? Thank you.
Ujjwala, you want to pick that? Role of hydrogen? The role of hydrogen and how does hybrid mobility evolution look like? In fact, if I know correctly, Telangana is building a green hydrogen valley and trying to invite all kinds of corporates to, so it's a big bet.
I think on hydrogen, we don't have any other, it's known, I think government is also pushing a bit on green hydrogen for different applications. And we all have different applications on hydrogen. In fact, in hydrogen ice, hydrogen fuel cell are being tried out by multiple players, and innovation will be happening in that area definitely. India is focusing quite strongly on green hydrogen. Again, there are global players and indigenous players, as well as different innovations and applications happening around hydrogen. So I don't see there is a challenge. I don't know why you have related with hybrid part of it. But I think hybrid, I talked about hybrid energy storage. On a hybrid electric vehicle, I think it will be more driven by CO2, the way it is happening in Europe entirely, where we are talking about CO2 emissions or the fuel economy being driving a lot of hybridization from mild to strong hybrids, which will be creating if impact on CO2 emissions or the entire fleet CO2 or fuel efficiency targets around that. So these two are distinct answers I have given. I think technology-wise, yes, all technology, I strongly believe that technologies are global. The applications and the solutions have to be derived locally. I think Anshuman said the same way, that we have to adopt it for the suited to the our requirements. Thank you.
Friedrich.
Yeah, I can piggyback of that regarding hybrid. Like she said, Germany is moving away from hybrid because it doesn't bear out CO2-wise. It's just they've decided we can't meet our targets that way. For example, if you buy an EV vehicle in Germany right now, the government will give you 4,500 euros. They will not give you that anymore for a hybrid vehicle, which used to be different. Regarding green hydrogen, just want to make one point. Germany is looking to import green hydrogen from India. So that's also one thing where the two countries work together.
Any last question before we wrap up? Thank you so much, panelists. This has been we've covered a very vast, very diverse ground. As I was just seeing my notes, we've covered a lot of ground. I hope we've left some thoughts with our audience. Thank you so much. Enjoy the conversation.
A big thank you to this panel. Thank you all very much for being with us here this afternoon.